Welcome to the WTF Show podcast from Bangkok, Thailand. Presented by Vimol Kogar. Tune in to get your dose of weekly verbal Red Bull.
Hey, welcome to the WTF Show. Today we have Sidd Ketkar. Welcome to the show, kid.
Hey Vimol, thank you so much for having me here.
Tell me a little bit about your past. Where did you go to school?
Right, I actually was born in Pune, in India, basically. I did my schooling there. Following that, I moved to Mumbai and I did my mechanical engineering in Pune, and post that I did my catering in Mumbai. After that, I went to Adelaide, South Australia, and studied international business at Le Cordon Bleu. And so that's pretty much what I studied, I guess.
So what brought you to Bangkok, Sid?
Very interesting. I was working with the state government back in Australia, so I was looking after Adelaide, Sydney, and Gold Coast, and I was managing Asia for 7 years. So I was doing 17 international trips a year. So I actually ended up spending a lot more time in Asia than in Australia. So I guess that's when I fell in love with Asia itself. I was meant to move to Singapore, but I took 3 weeks holiday to Samui, and I basically just fell in love with Thailand. And about 3 months later, I had packed my bag, sold everything, and moved to Bangkok.
So what was your first job in Bangkok? What did you do?
I came in here to work with So Bangkok, actually. It's about almost 10 years now that So was about to open.
That's a Sofitel Bangkok, is that right?
Yes.
Right.
That time it was So Sofitel, and now it's So Bangkok. So I came in there. That was my first, contract for a couple of weeks as it was opening. Post that, I joined Intercontinental. So I was working with IHG, and I actually moved to Vietnam for 1 year. So I was doing hotel openings with Intercon Landmark Hanoi and then Intercon Da Nang. Then again, my love to Bangkok, I guess, brought me back here. Opened Holiday in Pattaya, and that's what happened.
So would you call yourself a hospitality person? Where do you place yourself?
Yes, I am definitely a hospitality person. I think my passion has always been in hotel industry, especially with food.
Is it called hotelieriQ? Is that what it's called?
That's right.
So what does that do?
Sure. So actually, just to go a little bit back, so after Holiday Inn, I joined Accor, and I was working with Pullman Kaulak for a couple of years. And about 5 years ago, I was just sitting in the office and decided it was time to do something of my own. I had the skills and the experience of working with someone, and now I decided I wanted to do something for myself. And what I started off was hotelieriQ, which is a company which does pretty much sales and marketing, revenue distribution, and anything that's related to hotel industry as such. But we only focus on small boutique properties, especially any properties in between 20 to 50 rooms. What I found while I was, working is that these smaller hotels do not have either the skill set or do not have the funds to have a full-fledged sales and marketing team. So if you look at a bigger hotel, then you have 10 or 15 salespeople or sales and marketing personnel working for them, whereas with these smaller properties don't. So I saw there was a gap there and decided to grab it really and started this business. So we started with 2 properties in Sri Lanka first, and then Laos. As of today, then we manage 7 countries, and we have 15 properties on board that we do sales and marketing and pre-opening for them.
Tell me about your relationship with Thailand. I'm curious because, like you said, you fell in love with Samui, but Thailand is not it might be an obvious place to retire, but maybe not so obvious a place to make money as compared to Dubai and Singapore. So why Thailand?
I'll give you a little funny story, I guess. In fact, in 2011, if I'm not mistaken, I came here for a Tourism Australia conference. And I came here in May, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And then my experience in Bangkok actually wasn't that good. I had gone for a couple of shows. I had a few of my staff with me. It was was not a good show. A couple of the girls got pushed down the stairs, broke their ankle, and I remember going back and saying, "I'm never going to step foot again in Thailand." Just didn't have the experience wasn't good. Anyhow, that following November, I had taken 3 weeks off, and the plan was to move to Singapore. So I had taken those 3 weeks off, and for some reason, I ended up in Samui, and I spent those 3 weeks there. And that's pretty much where I fell in love with, I guess. So my love started there. Because tourism industry, Thailand is quite strong in tourism industry as such. So for me, it made sense to move here for work. And money-wise as well, tourism industry does have different avenues. So I didn't start off with hotels 100%. So was a 2-week contract. Initially, I was going to get into conventions and meetings and events because that was my background. I was managing that for 3 states back in Australia. But somehow the hotel industry kind of pulled me towards it, and I was always fascinated with sales and marketing. So that's how I got in.
And we are today looking at the most challenging time in Thai history in tourism.
Absolutely.
And tell me, what are the basic challenges?
Look, I think from tourism industry as such, I think it's suffering globally at the moment. So it's not just Thailand, but about 60 to 70% of our business is on hospitality tourism focused. So we are suffering for sure. One of the things I guess I find at this stage is, especially the islands. I think the islands are suffering a lot more than I guess Bangkok, of course, is. But I find the properties which are very much focused on, or islands which are very much focused on tourism, are suffering the most, and that's predominantly, having no tourists really.
Right, and there's no solution, I'm guessing, for the short term.
No, I don't think there is at this point. It's quite, controversial as well. Even at this point of time that Phuket is opened, whether it was the right move, whether, opening Phuket when 100% vaccinations, the 2 vaccinations that needed to happen, if those are not done, but now we are getting people in for Songkran. So that's going to create more complications. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, so don't count me on it. But if a person has just taken 1 vaccine and they're still due to take second, but now we are going to have 24.5 out of 1,000 are traveling to Phuket. So that's going to create even more complications, and that's going to again create more lockdowns, and that's, I think, what's coming.
Quite unfortunate, quite unlucky for Thailand to be in this position where their 20% of their business is generated from tourism. What advice? Because we are a youth empowerment and peer-to-peer show, and we want the young people out there who may be considering the hospitality industry. They are looking at these challenges, and it looks insurmountable. It doesn't look like you could. Why would a young person want to join hospitality after seeing the devastation of the last 1 year?
I think it's a great question. Tourism industry is a very resilient industry. We have bounced back really well after the tsunami. Anything that happens, political issues or anything, the industry, or especially Thailand, bounces back quite well. That's one part. The second is tourism industry or hospitality as such. It's a very people-focused, kind of industry. So the skill set are very transferable to any other industry sectors as such. So getting in and working within the industry, this is just a little bump, if I may say so. But it also teaches us a lot of things. And I think finding opportunities where there's crisis, and I think opportunities come from crisis as well. So you should probably not look at that as a negative. It's probably another year, and we will bounce back.
So another thing that, Sid, if I may, I didn't understand about tourism industry and hospitality. So about 200 years ago, somebody in Switzerland realized that this is a good place for old people to come and rest. And then slowly all these tourism schools and resorts opened in Switzerland. And that was the beginning of hospitality schools in Switzerland. People would come and recuperate. Most of it was a sort of wellness. People went there to get better from their illnesses, And yet today in Asia, there are people who are dying and paying a lot of money to go to Switzerland to learn hospitality. Is there an alternative for young people out there? Because I am talking to my audience who might not be able to afford 50,000 francs or Swiss francs or something. Can you suggest, or can you even offer, can you say to the audience that, look, this is not the only way. You don't have to go to Switzerland and learn from one of these fancy schools. What do you think?
I think you're absolutely right. Not everyone can afford it. But there are definitely different, there are options available. Even in Thailand, you have options available. I'll give you an example of my company. I mean, I basically have 3 interns working for me. And, that's, you can actually learn, the tricks of the trade as such through working as interns or going and working with hotels. In fact, most of the international brands will offer scholarships or also provide these management courses where you go and join them. They actually teach you how everything works. The other part that I also learned is what you study in school in reality is very different. So I also found when I was going through school, what I found was that the schools will always tell you, once you finish, then once you've graduated, you'll be a director of sales and marketing, you're the GM, you'll be, marketing director. But the fact is you have to start from scratch. I started off, doing 2 jobs when I was studying. I was working for the governor's house.
You didn't start in the kitchen, Sid.
I actually started in the kitchen. Funny enough, because my passion and my hobby was baking, really. So I started off, my first job back in India when I was doing that was a 2 a.m. shift, basically, for 12 hours doing bread rolls.
Oh, there you go. So you did start in the kitchen.
So I did spend about 1 week just doing bread rolls for 12 hours.
There you go.
And then the next job for the next 3 weeks was taking the chocolate out of the chocolate mold, putting it in the wrapper, and then putting that wrapper into the box and closing the box.
There you go.
That was me. And then after that, I did night auditing and porters and front office, and then gradually moved to where I am.
So tell me, what's the most challenging part and what's the most exciting part? So 2 questions: challenging and exciting parts of the hospitality industry.
Challenging. I think that one of the challenging challenges, I think for me personally, what I think I found was when I was working as a wedding cake decorator as such, it was the hardest thing was to keep the brides happy. And for me, it was a clear example was about this the cake that I was doing. She wanted this particular bride wanted white orchids. Now the orchids don't come in one shade of white, do they? So we had created all this beautiful cake, and then when she saw it, she's like, "No, this cake is not white the way I want." So there's challenges to keep people happy all the time. But the exciting part is also it teaches you how to, I guess, manage people in a way, or manage situations, because you always end up with a different story. And it actually teaches you, and it really kind of, it really teaches you a lot about how people are and how you can adapt yourself in that particular situation or scenario.
So I'm going to put you in a corner. I actually generally don't put people in a corner. But what made you cry ever? When did a client really give you a hard time?
I don't think I have actually cried. I have definitely walked out of the room, especially with this particular the bride, because I had spent so much time on this cake, and I was extremely frustrated. I did walk out, didn't cry though.
There you go. There you go. With the pandemic lasting for maybe possibly another 6 months to a year, and us opening up maybe, if we're lucky, by Q1 next year, where do you see hospitality? How do you think it will change? Do you think consumers' patterns will change? Will people take longer holidays, shorter holidays? Will people take more holidays, less holidays? How do you think things will evolve?
I think that it's a very interesting question, and I hope we find kind of solution for it. But I think what's going to happen is, what I think will happen is there's going to be three parts. I think one where the industry is going to be a lot more looking into the whole security, the safety aspect of it. Probably the clients are going to be looking at smaller boutique properties, some niche properties which are a bit more safe, secure. And even before COVID, I guess, there's already a shift in the mindset. People want to go and stay at experiential, family-owned hotels than going at bigger properties. Sure, if you're going for business, it's a different scenario. But where you see a trend already coming through is people are looking at something, a point of difference, or something to talk about, that, I went and stayed at this heritage property, which was built in 1972, and this is the story. They want to learn. So there's a bit of that education, learning shift mindset that's really come through. What that will, I think, continue quite a bit, and I think people will be more going and staying with these family-focused properties. I think there's quite a few different layers to this, because one of them is also the flight patterns and the whole travel as such. So it will be interesting to see whether we are going to have more of these bigger airlines, or are we going to have more of the I guess, low-cost traveling to different destinations, and whether people are going to travel by that. I think there'll be a shift in the travel as well.
I want to talk about skill sets for young people. Mm-hmm. Now, the skill sets you learn in an institute or a training center or a school, that's a skill set that I probably can't contribute so much. But I want to talk about the softer skills. I want to talk about the skills of the softer skills, the skills of people who need to come to you and learn what is necessary for the more challenging times we're facing. What do you think are the soft skills that we need?
Great question as well. I think, you're very right. When you study everything through schools, you're sitting at a different, the skill set is completely different. When you get into work, I think the biggest thing to learn, I think, is people skills, because I think the industry is all about people, and managing, the reactions and people in different, or guests or clients as such, and understanding and listening to what they really want. I think one of the things one of my mentors taught me was, every time you come to a new city, always talk to the taxi drivers, because the taxi drivers know exactly what is happening.
So they have the pulse.
So if you start asking questions about, how things are, or anything really related to the city, they have the knowledge, and then that can be used. The second part which was beautifully put by her, was listen. Before you actually say things, you need to listen to what they want to say, and then create a journey of a story that they have said it, but you're doing it in a sales pitch.
Right.
So I think for me, people skills, networking is critical as well. And networking not only with your peers. When I used to teach at Kodambla marketing, my first, I guess, tutorial that I had done to the kids was, I'd said, look, I'm going to send you a tutorial, a report that you have to do, but I'll send it to you 2 days after. What I had asked them to do is, after 2 days, I sent them an email and I said, you need to write about the person sitting on your right, left, and somebody behind you. about 80% or 90% of them had written, an Indian had written about an Indian, sitting next to them and one at the back. But the whole idea behind that was if you want to be in sales and marketing, you need to actually come out of your comfort zone and make friends with different communities as well, because you're going to learn a lot more, basically spending more time with different cultures, backgrounds, than just your friends.
Right.
I think that's a very important skill to have in this industry, is to adapt yourself to different cultures, because that also teaches you what things to say and what not to say to specific cultures as well.
So there is a cultural bias in the hospitality industry in terms of basically the skill sets you need to handle an international bunch of guests, right? I guess you have to be sensitive to one type of culture as opposed to another.
Absolutely.
Is that right? Is
Absolutely.
that how it works?
You have to.
Right.
You need to be also careful. I mean, sometimes with Middle Eastern community as well, you cannot go and shake your hands with a woman.
Right.
But you can do that with a man.
Right.
That knowledge has to be taught as well. So I think the cultural aspects, the industry teaches us really well. And it's extremely important to learn in this part of, I guess.
Do you think that Thailand has an inherent advantage in tourism? Do you think it's because the people are docile, they're nice, they're hospitable? What's your opinion there?
I think there's two parts. I think it's not just Thailand. I think for me, it's very much Southeast Asia. I think the Southeast Asian community as such has that almost giving, which is giving nature or attitude, really. So yes, we are, the city or the country of smiles, and we are exceptionally good at it. But I think there's this. It's not a regional. I think it's just a cultural. People are a lot more friendlier in Southeast Asia, I find, and that comes across in the service aspect that they deliver.
Are you pessimistic or are you optimistic about hospitality in the future?
Completely optimistic, for sure. I think even now, I find with this current scenario, I think we, as I said earlier as well, even if it's hard times, I think with hard times comes creative aspects. For me as well, my industry is, completely, or my hotels, most of them are closed. But that actually forced me to think about, okay, what am I going to do next? How can I bring in money?
Right. How do you get an income stream for the
exactly.
hotel? Yeah.
So if the hotels, and also the other aspect is, if the hotels are not busy, they can't pay me, and I know that, so I can't go and ask them for the money either.
Right.
So that actually helped me to start a new kind of initiative, which is about raw food, not raw food, I guess it's called Raw Plates, but I look after organic supply chain currently. So it's a funny story actually. What happened was my neighbor, I'm a big fan of organic produce, or rather I love to garden.
Right.
And my neighbor one day came and gave me this box of organic vegetables and said, try this. And I've really enjoyed it. And I contacted the farm. It's a 100-rai farm in Chiang Rai. And I contacted him, and he said, look, I need some support in getting this product out in Bangkok. And I was like, okay, well, that's an interesting initiative. So I called quite a few of my hotel friends, and they said, I was asking them, I said, look, why don't you use organic produce? And if there is a farm, would you be interested? And they said, absolutely, they will be interested. But what they found was sometimes, because it's all harvested on seasons, and 1 week the vegetable or the produce is there, the next week it isn't. So there's no, I guess, daily or weekly supply chain for the hotels. So it probably wasn't reliable as such. So that gave me an idea of actually bringing about 25 farmers around the region together.
Like a cooperative?
Almost. And then what we're now doing is we're trying to implement this supply chain process and provide organic produce to restaurants and hotels, I guess.
Fantastic. I'm just going to have a quick aside, Sid, if I may. I'd like to quickly remind our guests that on Mondays we have, so WTF is a weekend show every Saturday. That's me, Vimol Kogar, on the podcast. On Mondays we have the WTF Daily Show. The name of the show is actually WTF Radio Show, hosted by DJ Rico. On Tuesdays we have the WTF Investing Show, hosted by Direk Kanijal. On Wednesdays, we have the WTF Fake It Till You Make It show, currently hosted by Shruti Katari. So I hope everybody in the audience maybe Googles that and tries to find our shows. The place that's easiest to find it is on YouTube under WTF Daily Show. That being said, I quickly, Sid, want to invite you to at the end of this year, we will have the WTF Youth Awards, which you will be invited to nominate and vote for Youth of the Year, age 20 to 30, who you believe has contributed to our community. So I hope you will be there. And finally, Sid, you also have a chance to choose who our next guest is.
Fantastic.
Right? So if you can, just send me a note or a PM me at any point and tell me who you think would be an excellent guest on the WTF show.
For sure.
So, towards the end of our podcast today, I would like you to address the youth out there who are a little bit disillusioned. A little bit, this pandemic's taken a six for them. They've totally lost it, some of them, right? They can't find a job. Yeah. I mean, they can't even think about finding a job, right? They're at home and they have these skill sets. Somebody's a chef. Yeah. Somebody's a hospitality guy, somebody's a people's person. Yeah. But right now you can't go out and meet people. Yes. Right? You're asked to social distance. So I'd like you to give me a sort of a summary in terms of what you think the youth out there, how they're supposed to approach the future.
Sure. It's a great question as well. And I think, Vimol, if given a chance, I'll be more than happy to support or mentor any of the youth that want to be, want some support or help as such. What I find is, even if you can't meet people at this point, but you have the skill sets, there are avenues of still trying to find a job or trying to work. For example, if you are a chef, you could potentially start your online area of cooking, or going and having a booth, for example, at any of these markets. So there are different ways to look into it as well. And so I would strongly say that keep looking. That's one part. Second, this is the time to be more creative. So actually try and there's one thing that I learned. The reason I'm talking about this is somebody called Jay Shetty, actually, about 2 or 3 years ago, he said this phrase, that I am not what I think I am. I am not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. So that has stayed with me for quite some time, because all the time we think about what others think. But this particular time, it helped me to actually think, what do I want? Right. And if you try to find that answer, you will find solutions as well with that. So keep looking within yourself first is what I would say.
So if I were to give you a blank sheet, Mr. Ketkar, on the future of your business and the future of hospitality in Thailand, I'd like to end there. So I'm going to give you the last word.
Sure.
And you tell me where you see the future, and hopefully when our 45 million tourists come back.
I wish I had an answer for that. I wish they come in today, I guess. But I think we're going to have another 1 to 1.5 years of before we start seeing things. But once it opens up, I think we're going to have a major influx of tourists back. In fact, we're probably going to be triple time busy than what we are now.
Somebody told me that's called revenge tourism.
Exactly. So at that particular time, within about a year's time, I think we all will be sitting there going, oh my God, I've got so much work to do. So that's where I see the future. But if you give me a piece of blank paper. The future of my company, I see it growing into, I want to expand it into India and Sri Lanka again. And I'm very much, happy with the way the business is going, or rather was going. There's a rainbow ahead.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure for me, Sid, to have you on my show today. And I hope I really hope you had a good time. And we hope to invite you again at some point, and maybe tell us what happens and what happens when these 45 million people come in next year and we hopefully start making money again. I would like to extend my gratitude to you for coming on the show, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much, Vimol. It was my pleasure completely, and I'm glad that I could share some of my experiences with your audience as such. So thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone, and I hope you enjoyed the WTF show today. Join us next week when we have the best guests in the world. Goodbye.
That's it from the WTF show. Vimol and the team from WTF show would like to thank all our sponsors. Tune in next week for another great gig with people making a difference to your future. For advertising spots, go to the WTF Show IG page and get more info, or contact Vimol at 6681 616 5987.